I think we've all had a killer game where this happens. Okay. Alright. A lot of killer mains, including myself, will tell you that the game doesn't really start until there's 2 gens left. Unfortunately, this advice seems less than helpful when there's 2 gens left less than 2 minutes into the game. These games, although less common than some killers would have you think, are often why the game is survivor-sided has been a recurring argument for 7 years. It can feel impossible to win when you have one bad chase to start the game and are punished so severely for it. Recently I had one of these games while trying to learn Blight a bit better, specifically Momo 7's style of Blight that relies much more on fast bump logic than quick flicks and techs. Unfortunately, my style of learning killers with no gen slowdown so that my perks don't carry me to wins doesn't really work with Blight since his power and mobility is so good that I get a lot of wins anyway. So when the game decides that I'm worthy of a squad like the one I'm about to show, it's a humbling experience to say the least, but that doesn't mean the game was impossible. I'll let each part of the game play out first so you can make your own judgments, and then go back with my own review. Yep, we already got mistakes. First of all, you should see that I'm pretty much screwed with this build, especially if you look at the endgame screen. Although I was using the same add-ons as Momo 7th, he usually includes at least 3 gen slowdown perks while I have none. Compare this to quite a bit of meta on the other side and I'm pretty well outmatched. The other big issue is that I'm just not that good at Blight yet, which you'll see multiple times in the game. Lastly, I think the Nancys and maybe the Jill were in a pre-made group since this build is perfectly made to call out info while doing gens to the 2 chase players who can't be slugged. They also both brought a winter event item in the middle of June, but this is all speculation. It could have just been 4 great solo players. Getting into the game now, my 3 lethal pursuer procs show everyone near one house that has no gen in it. I look around for the 4th player, but I realize they have distortion. I quickly get into my first rush. There's already a good amount of mistakes here. First, I bumped too early and could have made it to that tree, which means I could have ended my second rush on this planter, giving me a position on the Nancy with 3 rushes left instead of 2. From here I chose the back of the car, but I should have gone to the garage, since that would give me full view of the front of the car with 2 rushes left, and I would have been on the same side that Nancy ran around. Instead I have 1 rush left, and she's on the other side of the car, meaning I have to do a max speed 180 flick to get a hit here, which I literally just don't have the muscle memory or skill for yet. No huge mistakes here. I don't have my power yet, so I have to walk around the loop normally where Nancy throws the pallet right away. This was a little surprising because the street only has 1 pallet before it becomes a huge dead zone. But I'm thinking that Nancy either A, knew that her teammates were going to do gens, so conserving resources doesn't really matter that much, or B, knew that if I hit her then, I would have my power back for a possible quick second hit. I decided to quickly make the dead zone and go back to the gen that others spawned by instead of chasing Nancy into the strongest house on the map. I don't actually have too many complaints here. After following the scratch marks for 4 bounces, I saw a foot from a survivor. During my 5th, I saw these scratch marks and thought she went around this corner. Unfortunately, she went upstairs. The biggest thing I could have done would be walk normally into the basement before using my power, but I wanted them off the gen as soon as possible. A minute into the game and I followed Jill into another house where I correctly guessed that she would vault the back window, but here I misjudged that I could grab a hit without my power and she barely made it to the pallet. The perfect play would have been hitting her in 2 rushes, probably bouncing here first. This pallet is mind gameable, but I had already decided to go back into the house since I heard someone on a gen upstairs, so I just broke it and moved on. Pretty easy to see the mistakes here. The first is from lack of map knowledge. I forgot there was a hole here, so you can see my indecision of which way to try to get over it. Then instead of resetting my power, I tried to continue it, which might have worked since the Jane stepped out here, but I accidentally hit the door frame. We'll chalk that one down to skill issue. Here I did get a hit, but if I had been looking straight instead of down at scratch marks, I could have saved about 4 seconds. Still not a huge deal. I think I got the second hit as fast as I could, but worth noting that the first gen pops just before 2 minutes into the game, which isn't that uncommon. I go for the only lead I have here, which is Nancy, but also note that my gens are the 4 pictured here, plus the 1 in this basement and the 1 upstairs next to me. This rush has a few ways to get a hit. First of all, since Nancy is tucked in the V shape between the truck and the car, I need at least 3 rushes from where I started no matter what, assuming she stays there. But if I go left, there's plenty to bounce off of, whereas there's nothing over here. That doesn't matter since I find this sign to turn on, but unfortunately I miss an easy 90-degree flick when I don't see her underneath Blight's elbow. Keep in mind, if I had also gotten that hit earlier in the game, she might still be injured here since she has no medkit. Finally, I just flick a bit early and Nancy has a well-timed dodge back into the strongest house in the map, where the unhook notification makes me think I might have an easier target behind me. At this point, I wasn't actually looking to tunnel unless I couldn't find the rescuer. Although I eventually see the scratch marks into the house, if I looked a bit closer I would have seen them both run in earlier and could have rushed there immediately instead. An extra bump there, but I got the hit regardless. After the hit, I stupidly thought there might be a window here, but that didn't matter since Jill didn't gain distance. Yeah, I'm sure you can find the mistakes here. Truthfully, my first fake wasn't even that bad. I think if I took an extra step forward and moonwalked straight back instead of turning, that Jill might have taken an extra step that would let me close this distance. This would have been a down at 246 instead of 310, saving about 24 seconds. But falling for the fake here, missing the swing here, and hesitating here before finally using a fake of my own was just the time pressure getting to me. Now the basement gen pops at 248, so that one's gone no matter what, but the next one is at 319. So with that hypothetical down at 246 and 15 seconds to get to the hook, I would have roughly 18 seconds and barbecue and chili info to get to the second floor gen, which is very doable with double speed Blight. Not only that, but I would find an injured Jane, so my best hypothetical situation is saving the third gen, plus having a hook and a down on Jane, which I could then choose to slug or not. I could also hook Jane nearby and proxy camp this gen to make sure it regresses. There was a lot I could have done with that earlier down is what I'm saying, and even more so if you include the other time savings or missed hits in the match. Anyway, let's continue. I think I should have started a rush here. With a few slams, I could be at almost max speed when I get to them and maybe catch them before they both go out the window. Also notice that Jane, who already has a hook, finishes being healed here, which means that if I was paying attention, I would know that she was still upstairs since they didn't both have time to slow vault out the window in 2 seconds. Jane literally could have been right behind me here, but I didn't check. After the vault and unhook notification, I decided to go tunnel since this team obviously knew what they were doing. Here, Nancy makes a great play, giving me a free hit so I won't see the injured Jill behind her, which I didn't. Going into the house, I thought I heard the firecracker drop after she was in the door, turned left, and still got blinded, so I don't know. My bad, I guess. Maybe Shadowborn helped with that one. First, I tried to take a weird path that she might run into. Unfortunately, I mistook her noise for being outside the front door instead of above me. Of course, I could hear the gen being worked on too, so I'm not sure what I was thinking. Probably about 17 seconds wasted here. This hook really accomplished nothing at this point in the game. It might have been better to slug and hope for a snowball here. Also, if I was thinking, I would know that injured Jill from the unhook would have had to go this way since she wasn't in the house, so she would have been on either of these gens the whole time. Instead, I took the barbecue and chili info and ran after Nancy, across the map and away from my last chance at a 3 gen. Here I knew that I wasn't good enough to get a rush hit around this debris, so I decided to fatigue since she was in a dead zone. Unfortunately, she had a 99 sprint burst that I hadn't seen yet. By the time my power recharged here, I still knew that I wasn't good enough to get a rush hit around this car. That doesn't mean I shouldn't have tried. After all, I was supposed to be learning this game. But after both gens popped on the other side where there was still a hooked survivor, I decided to try my luck finding injured Jill and pressuring over there instead, giving up this gate to a Nancy who had beaten me in all 4 encounters. Although I saw the first scratch marks, when I went to check in the direction of the exit gate, I missed the scratch marks on the pillar of the house, where an injured Nancy was. With the first escape in just under 6 minutes, and the other gate definitely 99'd at this point, I gave up and decided to search out my green glyphs. While searching for a third roughly a minute later and wondering why the game wasn't over, I remembered that I was playing against Nancys and had to actively force them out as they're unable to leave on their own. So while a 6-minute game is pretty hard to win against, and faster than any game I recorded while playing 100 games of Nurse in a row, after review I can count off my mistakes and misplays at almost every part of the game. A few of these could have been pretty crucial to changing the rest of the game as well. If you truly feel that you're playing impossible matches, I really urge you to record your games and review them before you go online to complain about how survivor-sided this game is. And I hear you, you don't want to play Meta Blight or Nurse just to keep up with a good team, but if they're on comms and they brought meta themselves, you just gotta accept that you won't be equipped for some games. And if you are playing Meta Blight and still losing, I got really bad news for you. I mean, is it really plausible that Momo 7th didn't get a team like this in over 1,000 games? I don't think so. Even I won the last 6 games before this one, so it's not like it's that common of an occurrence. But hey, that's a discussion for a future video. In the meantime, I hope you found this video interesting at the very least, and I hope you remember to always tunnel your local Nancy main.